Hey everyone! Before we open today's file, please make sure to follow us on Instagram at d.s.radio, where you can find all the images that go along with today's case. You can drop us an email at contact.dsradio@gmail.com. You can find all of our socials in the Linktree bio on our Instagram profile, including links to merch. If you're feeling especially generous, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio, where you can get access to our exclusive Instagram page and make suggestions for upcoming episode topics that you would like us to cover. Speaking of Patreon, thanks to our Patreons, Riff Cult, Cropley Crab, Cash Broadus, Raspberry Jr., Jason R. Nelson, Creepy Paper, Jamie Sook, Michael Laughlin, Lindsay Keller, Mike Wright, Greer Weaver, Kelsey Carruthers, Linz Gibbon, Drake Holvig, Only Child, Michael M, Wesley Akers, Riaz K, Emily Medeiros, Pip, Heather Wynn, Graves, Devon Sweatshirt, The Ordained Sinister Minister, and Philip Hoffman. Hi everyone, and welcome to Dystopian Simulation Radio. I'm your host, Linz.
And I'm your host, Chris. Linz?
Yes?
How you doing?
I have been better, but I am hoping to get better day by day. To just not be vague here, because, you know, we missed last week or the week before. We missed the last episode. We did a repeat of a classic, which is amazing, by the way. And if you'd never heard that, it was probably a treat. But yes, my mother unexpectedly passed away, and yeah, it's been awful, but I'm back and I'm hoping to improve day by day mood-wise about it. So yeah, just taking care of myself right now. Had to take a little break, but I am back. Chris, how are you?
Pretty good. I think everyone would just kind of thank you for your honesty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've only, I'm normally the serial offender when my wife goes into labour 5 weeks before she was due, when I end up missing an episode.
Yeah.
But this time it was like a double blow. Obviously, you know, that happened with your mum, and my gran passed away as well a week prior. So it was just one of those situations that was like, right, we're just going to have to just put things on ice for a moment. But
yeah, we really had to. So sorry, everyone. It really was too much. We couldn't get an episode out, but yeah, I hope you all understand. And I did have this script prepared for a while, Chris. I did.
Okay.
So
great.
I tried, but couldn't quite get there. But also, Chris, 29th of February. How weird is that?
It is. We're recording this for 29th of February.
Yep.
2024 is the current year.
I keep thinking it's 2025, and I don't know why. I feel like this has been the longest, hardest year yet, and it's the 29th of February.
Oh, man.
Also, it's a leap year, so I could propose to somebody.
You could.
I don't know if that's just a British tradition, but...
Are you going to? Is this breaking news?
Jake Gyllenhaal, if you happen to be listening to this...
Really? Really? Of everyone?
What do you mean?
Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. I don't know. I think there'd be bigger catches out there.
Bigger catches? But this is like my teenage crush here, Chris.
But hold on. What movie? What movie of Jake Gyllenhaal's was it that caused this like clump?
Donnie Darko.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Oh, I know the scene. I know the one that would have got you. The one where he's dressed up as Hulk Hogan, right?
He isn't dressed up as Hulk Hogan, but someone at the party is.
Was he the Ultimate Warrior?
No, he was just in like a skeleton onesie with a hoodie, I think.
Oh, no fun.
But yeah, okay, I'll think of someone else. We could resurrect Frank Sinatra. You know, I've got a Frank Sinatra thing.
I'd never put
Chris
two
is
and two
just
together,
like,
but
what is this taste?
Jake Gyllenhaal and Frank Sinatra, wow. Okay. Fine.
Well, what about you? If you were in my position,
Well,
don't say Hulk Hogan.
Damn it.
Do you think he has a wedding do-rag?
Oh, it definitely does. It's got
like white and lacy.
Yeah, it's white lacy with diamonds encrusted on the front.
Diamond encrusted
H.
tie-dye.
I got this one for my dealer, dude. I think that you could not go much better than maybe I'm trying to remember his name.
Oh, he's so special.
What's that guy called? We did the episode about Balloon Boy. Was it Martin Healy or Marvin Healy or
Mr. Healy? Really, Chris?
But he's so enthusiastic. He's so enthusiastic.
Okay, right.
Richard Heaney. That was it, Richard Heaney. I mean, God, yeah, what a man.
Well, that's Chris's choice.
Oh, what a man.
All right. So how have you been, Chris, by the way?
Well, you know, it's been a bit of a weird year so far. Some pretty shit stuff, but also some pretty good stuff has happened as well, which I can't quite talk about just yet. But
you don't want to jinx it.
Don't want to jinx anything. But the stuff that I am excited to talk about is whatever the topic is today. But before we get on to that, the last thing I do promise you, dear listeners, is we just want to say a big thank you to all of our Patreons.
Yes.
We had a new Patreon joined just today, Devon Sweatshirt, if that is your real name.
I hope so.
Thank you very much. So we'll update the new part very, very soon. But just a quick thank you to all of our current Patreons as of today: Philip Hoffman, Pip, Emily Medeiros, Riaz K, Wesley Akers, I see you there, Wes, Michael M, Only Child, Drake Haldig, Linz Gibson, Kelsey Carruthers, Greer Reaver, Mike Wright, Lindsay Keller, Michael Laughlin, Jamie Sook, Creepy Paper, Jason R. Nelson, Cash Brodius, Cropley Crab, Riff Cult, Heatherwin, Graves, and you, Devon Sweatshirt.
Devon Sweatshirt.
And if you ever needed a reason as to why you should join our Patreon, I hope you listened to that last episode and listened to the terrible audio quality that we had from our original recordings with the $10 Amazon microphones that we bought on Black Friday, in case this all went tits up and we didn't have to spend a lot of money. But now you can hear we've got much better equipment to chat shit to you.
Yes, we do. I've got the Yeti here. Chris had a Yeti, had issues with it. Now he's got something else, but we have very good quality equipment now. So
weirdly, being a Bigfoot, as I'm accused of all the time, myself and the Yeti didn't get along very well. So I have...
Isn't he like your Scandinavian cousin or something?
Yeah, but we just hate each other. So I moved on to Rode. I've got a Rode mic. And a Rode arm, and yeah, let's record.
You've got a rogue arm. We don't want to hear about that. Is this another one of your Patreon specials?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. No, I've got a
alien hand syndrome.
Phantom pain.
Right, Chris.
Yes.
Before we start, if you want to see any of the images that go along with today's episode, you can do so on our Instagram, which is
at d.s.radio.
And if you do want to join that Patreon, Chris,
then you get exclusive access to our Patreon only Instagram page, which is at DSR Friend Club.
Which is a terrible play on the Misfits Fiend Club, as we always have to explain because it doesn't make any sense to anyone. But that's what it's called and that's what we're going with. So, Chris,
Oui.
we have a bit of a classic case today.
Okay.
One that I think we need to finally file away and either proven or debunked. So, I know our filing cabinets here at the DSR basement headquarters are getting a bit full.
A little bit.
But it's important we keep doing our jobs despite the nuclear fallout and our peers and loved ones turning into zombies. So we're going to take it back in time a bit today. Back to the 19th century for a nice, wintry, spooky and perplexing case.
Oh.
This story takes place between the 8th and 9th of February, 1855, in Devon, England.
Okay.
What do you know about Devon, Chris?
Clotted cream. Better weather than up here in the north. There's cows.
Pretty much cows everywhere, Chris, but I'll give you that.
It's Devon. It's in the south.
Devon is located in southwest England, so at the bottom of the map, under Wales and Bristol. It forms part of the Cornish Peninsula, with the Bristol Channel to the north and the English Channel to the south. So the story goes, after a night of heavy snowfall in Exeter in early February, a neighbourhood in the area of the Exe estuary, residents awoke to find something perplexing. A trail of hoof-shaped footprints. Now, it might not seem too strange to find some footprints in the snow. However, these prints were found not just on the ground, but, well, everywhere. These single-file footprints seemingly didn't stop for anything. They didn't take alternative routes in the face of obstacles such as rivers and walls and even houses. They simply went up, over, or through. They were found going up walls, over roofs, through stacks of hay, and even up drain pipes. The hoof prints were on opposite sides of the River Exe. The odd lone print was found here and there in a nearby field, and in some instances they simply stopped, only to start again somewhere else. It was as if a hippogriff had spontaneously appeared and disappeared overnight.
A what? A hippogriff?
A hippogriff. It's like the front of an eagle and the body of a horse.
Oh, a chimera.
No, a hippogriff.
Don't call me that.
Right, Chris. What do you think so far? We have hoof prints that go on the ground, up walls, the sides of houses, over roofs, up drain pipes.
So I'm thinking that some rogue farmer has been training a massive horse.
Not a cow.
To walk.
A Devon cow.
No, definitely not a cow. Not a Devon cow, but a Devon horse. To walk on two legs, which would allow it to scale up things.
Walk up drain pipes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They've got a sort of gladiators-esque setup in their large barns. Nobody knows what farmers do in those sheds.
That's true.
What are you doing in there? The first thing that comes to mind, if I think of something apart from a hippogriff, which I wasn't aware of until about 35 seconds ago, would be, the devil, Satan, is often portrayed as having hooved goat's legs. So I would have guessed if you'd told me this story but hadn't told me where it was located, I would have said, are we going down a Jersey Devil route here?
Oh,
but
okay.
I've never heard of the Devonshire Devil.
The Devonshire Devil, okay. Well, the print spanned 40 to 100 miles and covered 30 areas from Exmouth to Topsham and Dawlish to Teignmouth in a sort of indirect and scenic route. Newspapers at the time said that the creature appeared to have crossed the River Exe, which was 2 miles across in some places. So they said that the footprints went to the edge of the river, stopped, and then reappeared on the other side. I should point out here that nobody really knows the exact route taken, but this is as much information as we have. So let's take a little look at the route of these, or the route of these mysterious footprints on a map here, Chris.
Okay. So is this very much a we're going on a bear hunt scenario?
We're going on a something hunt. I can tell you that. So if you can just describe to the listeners what you are seeing here with the route, Chris.
Okay, so this is a map, looks like a Google map, actually.
It
of
is.
the route that this beast took. It starts in Teignmouth, which is on the mouth of the River Tyne, I would assume, and it goes all the way through Dawlish, then cuts up through Crofton, and then cuts along the coast. Goes all around the way, the River Exe, then crosses at its narrowest point, and then goes around through Eton, Limestone, and down to Exmouth. And this is sounding like that song, So What? With all of these southern places that we're mentioning.
So what?
So what? So what?
So
So what?
what,
You
you
boring
poor-
little... Yeah. I've been at Eastbourne, I've been at Brighton too. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. It's Anti-Nowhere League, but
That's it,
Metallica
yeah.
covered it.
Yeah, they did. I was trying to think who did the original. But the interesting thing that I would note of this map is that it's decided to cut up through Crofton, whereas what it could have done would be go along the Dawlish Warren little peninsula there, and there is actually a very small point where it could have crossed the sea. It could have swam through the sea, but obviously whatever this thing is maybe isn't good at swimming. Because
Well, some say that it crossed the river. There's a lot of different versions. Some say it did cross the river, and some say it went around.
Interesting. Well, whatever way it took, it started in Teignmouth and ended up in Exmouth.
It sure did. So I don't know about you, Chris, but there's a big difference between 40 miles and 100 miles, as we've just discussed. There's quite a gap. I suspect that points to potential embellishment, or if we're being kind here, a bad game of broken telephone.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really going on here, Chris? To figure it out, we're going to have a closer look at those prints. Now, obviously, we don't have a photograph, but we do have a drawing.
Okay.
So let's take a look at the sketch of the prints from the newspapers at the time. And if you could describe the image to the listeners, Chris.
Absolutely. I always love when we get images that are drawn.
Oh, now this one is as detailed as they come.
Right, so I'm so glad that there's a scale that's been put at the bottom here, so we can see, which is between 0 to 2 foot. So this is a series of horseshoe shape marks, upside down U's. They start facing as if they've come from the bottom left of the image, and then they walk more or less directly up at an even pathway between it. Interestingly, though, in this particular image, there's only one hoof. So,
yes,
I would have expected there to be 2 hooves at least. So either this thing is hopping, or it's trying to hide its tracks, walking in single file as sand people often do.
Right, more about the footprints. They were measured to be 4 inches long and 3 inches wide, and they were between 8 to 16 inches apart on the ground. So anyone out there who is used to seeing animal tracks will know there's a sort of informal way of looking at animal tracks. So
with your eyes.
Yes, well, preferably. So you have your waddlers, like raccoons, bears, beavers, etc. that sort of lean side to side when they walk, which is evident in the tracks that they leave behind. Then you have zigzaggers, and that's like foxes, moose, deer. They all walk in a way that their back footprints land perfectly in their front paw prints, which comes from the walk they've adapted for energy conservation. Then you've got leapers, which comprises of animals like weasels, otters, and things like that. Similar to zigzaggers, they place their back feet in the paw prints of their front feet perfectly, with gaps in between that indicate they've been bounding forward to move. Then you have rabbits and rodents who swing their back legs slightly in front of their front legs and sort of bounce their way forward, leaving those very distinct tracks.
What about your long movers?
Your long boys.
Your long movers.
Is that you, a long mover? You're quite long.
Thank you. I'll take that compliment. I was referring to the informal name for snakes.
Long walkers, just one long footprint. Right, so we have like a WordPress here. It's the BS Science Center WordPress, and they have a bunch of animal tracks in the snow. So we can take a look and see if there's anything similar to horseshoe footprints.
Let's have a look. So the first one, no. Cottontail rabbit, no.
Nope.
It's eliminate that one. The next one, no. Cottontail rabbit.
Look, this is the cottontail rabbit sitting in one place. And look, he's left a little gift in between his back legs there.
Oh, it's shit.
Thank you.
Then we've got the white-tailed deer hoofprint, which is two very distinct separate marks. So, no.
Nope.
We've got squirrel tracks, which are in a sort of butterfly shape.
So cute, but nope.
And more squirrel prints. Nope. Bird tracks.
Adorable, but no.
Adorable. There's still two very distinct marks. But this final one, from a fox, actually, yeah, that is exactly the same sort of pattern that we just saw. It's not hooved, but it looks like just one single file line. So they must walk, as you say, covering up exactly their footprints.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that. I did not think a fox print would look like that. But here we can see an example of something kind of similar. But obviously, the feet are tiny.
Yeah.
Unless it's a fox with shoes on and really defined calf muscles. I don't really think that matches. The Devon footprints were hooves without toes, which rules out the deer and the moose, etc., which have the two long toes in front. Moose and elk aren't native to England. But there's also horses and donkeys, and they leave behind the classic horseshoe track. Not exactly in a straight line like we see in this case, but close enough if you examine an isolated footprint. So could be someone with a horseshoe, maybe.
What about goats? We've got goats.
Yeah, but that is not a goat print. The goats have the two toes, don't they?
Yeah.
And they don't tend to go up drain pipes.
I don't know. You've seen some of those goats scale the side of mountains.
True. But usually sideways. But I like it. Very devilish. So, unless there was some sort of a mystical flying donkey doing parkour in Devon back in the days, we are no closer to the truth. When presented with the findings, the Royal Zoological Gardens were unable to provide an answer as to what sort of creature could have made the markings. A professor at the time, named only as Professor Owen in newspapers, said that he believed the tracks were left by an otter or a badger, leaning more towards the badger. But
big badger.
I was going to say it's a massive badger, like Professor Owen. What are you smoking?
Have you ever seen a badger, Professor Owen?
Yeah, maybe he's only seen a picture of a badger.
They are 8 feet long and 12 foot tall.
Just nothing to scale. But the people of 1800s Devon had a different idea of what this hoofed creature could be. They had never seen such tracks, much less tracks that ploughed through, up and over everything in their path. So they had to get creative in their guesses as to what the mystery creature could be. Now, you already said this earlier, Chris, and you are right, so I won't ask you what you think it is. You have already told me. And this is very creepy. The townspeople thought that the devil himself had been strolling around in the area in the dead of night. They interpreted the single-file hoofprints as those of a one-legged, hoofed demonic bipedal creature.
That's where I would have gone with this as well. There's only one answer, which is Satan himself has been stalking the streets.
Yes, which is why this case came to be known as the Devil's Footprints. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but
Really? I thought you would have crossed paths with this story at some point.
I don't think I've ever heard of this, but also, why is it not the Devonshire Devil?
I know! I guess it's because it was just the footprints and they can't confirm nor deny, only speculate. So,
It didn't stop New Jersey.
this occurrence was so scary and unusual to the townsfolk that many of them began making their way to the local constable's house to report it. They were afraid. They clearly hadn't seen anything like this before. There was something so unnerving about the whole situation that the residents could not settle. They became so superstitious about it that, desperate for help or for an explanation, they went to the local reverend, Mr. Musgrave. The reverend noticed that the people were teetering on the verge of hysteria, so, during a sermon, lightly looking left and right and wiping a bead of sweat from his brow, he had come up with something on the spot to calm the congregation, and he said something along the lines of, well, to me it seems like those are likely the, footprints of, the kangaroo in England in the dead of winter. Yes, nothing to worry about. Go home and continue doing your old-timey things.
A kangaroo.
He really said
At this time of year. In Devon. Entirely localised in this small village.
And horseshoes.
Yeah, on horseshoe stilts, apparently.
All right, Chris. I see you're not convinced by the kangaroo theory.
No.
Well, try this on for size. This, which I'm going to get you to read, is an excerpt from the Exeter Flying Post, or the Plymouth and Cornish Advertiser, on the 8th of March, 1855.
The Mysterious Footprints. A gentleman residing in St. Mary's Church, Torquay, has given us the following and most probable cause of the mysterious footprints
Seen in the different parts of this county. He says that whilst the snow was on the ground, he observed one morning some very curious marks in his garden. He then traced them for a considerable distance, and ultimately to a shed or linny, and from thence under the stump of the tree, when, on examining the place closely, he soon discovered a very large toad lying closely against the bank. He states that the impression left in the snow exactly corresponds with the woodcuts given in the Illustrated London News of March 3rd. Can anyone afford a better solution of this mystery? As for the impressions being seen on the housetops, that's all moonshine.
So, massive toad?
I mean, I'm liking where this is going. A massive toad. I mean, to be fair, you know, I can see it might not necessarily be a toad, but I could see how it could be something much smaller making that impression that could then be being mistaken.
Yeah, like an entire body as opposed to a footprint.
Yeah, I mean, when we looked at those ones of, you know, woodtail or whatever it was, the cottontail rabbit, obviously their impressions on the ground, because they sit quite regularly, they don't just stand up all the time, and a lot of creatures will do that, so it would track quite well that it could be hopping.
Still, up drain pipes, up the side of walls, onto roofs, like...
Yeah, I can. Now, here's a question, which I don't know if you'll be able to answer, because I'm assuming this isn't particularly detailed. There wouldn't have been any footprints on the side of the drain pipes, because how would they have been left?
No, they went up the drain pipes and onto the roof.
But how do you leave footprints like that? Like this.
Exactly, Chris. This is why it's a mystery.
No, but how do you leave the footprints? Literally, like, I mean, are we saying that once the snow melted, the footprints were there from like some sort of scorch mark?
No,
like,
they're imprinted in the snow. There's snow on the drain pipes. There's snow everywhere. It's heavy snow. Absolutely covered everything.
Would it cover the side of a house, though?
Yeah. 100%. The winters used to be really hardcore back in the 1800s in England.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's what they say
fair
anyway.
Enough. I was just thinking if it was something like a toad, which probably can, they definitely can scale walls and so on. So it could have, you could see how it could appear to end in one place and then appear somewhere else, and then somebody's just filling in the blanks and say, well, it went up the drain pipe.
Since we only have that amazing detailed drawing to go on, if only we had pictures.
It is very detailed.
So there have been so many theories about what these footprints could be, from travellers on stilts to escaped military air balloon dragging along its shackles in the snow, to abnormally agile parkour donkeys, as we said earlier. Everyone had their own idea about what could have made these tracks. The supernatural conversation surrounding the so-called devil's footprints in Devon became a hot topic of debate, and a lot of letter writing was done, with reactions to the hypotheses, including this absolute gem from the Devon and Exeter Gazette on the 3rd of March 1855. So this sassy individual, using the pen name An Humble Enquirer, had quite the reaction to Reverend Musgrave's kangaroo theory. So if you could read this very sarcastic response to that. I also love, Chris, that like this was a thing back in the days, that you would read something in a magazine and be so aggravated by it that you would write a letter, wait for it to get there, and wait for it to be published. And this is how you would sort of have beef with somebody else back in the days.
You know, you laugh. I went to a small village quite recently in the UK, and I was hearing stories from some of the local people about the local parish council and how they sort of engaged with it. And there is still a lot of that goes on in the smaller villages.
You are kidding.
Out there. No, a lot of people will write letters in the local paper because everybody reads that paper.
Oh my God, that's so like petty. Like you can't just...
Oh, that is exactly what it is. And that's why it's so funny.
Imagine you had beef with a neighbour and you just passively aggressively write like letters to the local church paper.
The mysterious footprints. In connection with the mysterious footprints observed in the snow on the 18th of February, we have received a letter from a correspondent in which he disputes the supposition that they were the tracks of a kangaroo. He says, to account for the disappearance of that kangaroo in these regions, down in Devonshire, we presume that it came down from London by express train. For, it be remarked, there are no footprints on the way between London and Exeter, which is satisfactory proof that the said kangaroo must have travelled by some conveyance, and that, having reached Exeter, he there got himself shod like a donkey in order to more effectively evade his pursuers, and that he moreover took the precaution of walking differently to his natural gait, taking the delicate steps of about 1 foot of length instead of his ordinary leaps of 30 or 40 feet, and that altogether it was very like a kangaroo, or in my opinion, very like a whale.
Okay.
Oh, that's excellent.
First of all, though,
I mean, a whale would be a long mover.
That's a long mover. Yeah. But also, how far did he say kangaroos jump? 40 feet.
Yeah, 30 or 40. This is also clearly a man who's at least seen a picture of a kangaroo, but has never seen one in action.
He's seen a kangaroo on like Tom and Jerry.
It's a kangaroo that's spring-loaded, apparently.
Honestly, I think the funniest thing about this story is just like 1800s people having like probably never seen most of these animals and probably seeing like really normal tracks in the snow and coming up with this devil theory and then arguing about how, no, it's a badger because they didn't know how big a badger was. Oh no, it's not a kangaroo because they can jump 40 feet and would have to be shoed like a donkey. It's just
I would suggest that it was a crocodile if we didn't all know that they had wings.
Like, seriously, a crocodile's probably more believable than the badger, the donkey, or the devil. I don't know, though. I like the devil idea. But, Romany travellers on stilts. Now, I don't know what the idea with that would be. But if you had a stilt, you could probably hold it out and like poke it on the side of the drain pipe.
Yeah, I mean, you could. You could do that. I mean, I think though it's very much just rooted in racism and xenophobia.
I'm not sure because I did read that something like that did used to happen. I cannot recall the reason why, but like apparently at least once in history, it had happened for one reason or another, and I don't know what that was, but it's just like a story.
Well,
that I
it
read.
makes sense.
But you're right; it could just
from
be
just like if you were going to hoax it, you could get yourself a pair of stilts and somebody could walk it. That is, to be fair, the most likely explanation. But the accusation that it was, somebody from a Romanid community, it just smacks of old-fashioned, xenophobia.
Yeah, and they'd also have to be really good on stilts to like walk around an entire lake.
Now, Linz,
across several counties.
You have just hit upon something very interesting.
Have I?
May I ask you a question?
You may.
Was the circus in town?
Yeah, but why would... Oh my God, imagine they had like something affixed to the... No, because, there was no other footprints, like...
Well, I tell you exactly what happened. One of the stilt walkers got drunk in Teignmouth, and everyone else left without him. He knew where the next stop was. It was in Exmouth. So he walked all the way around, and he crossed at Topsham because the river was shallow enough that he could still walk in his stilts, but the cut across the sea was just too deep for even an accomplished stilt walker to manage.
You know what? I think you might have solved it, or at least thrown another theory out into the mix. Yeah, imagine he was like, I don't know where I am. I'll just walk around the river.
Oh, I haven't got quite a good view. I guess I'll get up on my stilts and I'll be able to see a little bit further into the distance to see if there's the big top anywhere.
And it'll keep me warm. Yeah, it'll keep me warm being on my stilts because, I don't want to be getting my feet wet and freeze to death.
And I just love my stilts anyway.
Yeah, and then he gets really drunk and goes, maybe it's up this drain pipe.
I ain't stopping for nothing. I gotta make that next shot or I ain't getting paid this month.
He got fired and he couldn't accept it.
I'll show that ringmaster what a real stilt walker looks like.
Quite a weird title, isn't it? Yeah. Ringmaster.
I was thinking how weird stilt walker is, and he said street walker.
So, unlucky for the rest of the country, these cursed Cloven trails began to pop up elsewhere as far as Inverness.
No.
Mm-hmm. Getting closer to you, Chris. So the North Devon Journal Herald had a segment on the Inverness footprints case in their March 15th, 1855 issue. Apparently the footsteps were almost identical to those described in the Devon case a month prior. Of course, these prints became quite the local spectacle, and one man even dug out one of the footprints in a block of snow in the hopes that it could be further analysed. According to the article, this preserved footprint was, quote, examined by an observant naturalist who presented his findings saying, Chris, if you would be so kind.
Some animal, presumably a hare or a polecat, had traversed the field at a gallop, with its feet close together. The paws had become slightly filled with snow, so that only the rounded form was impressed, and the open space between them left a slightly raised and pointed mark, like the centre of a cloven hoof. This gentleman followed the track till, on ascending a slope, the animal appeared to have slackened its pace to a trot, and then left upon the snow distinct impressions of its 4 feet. Further on, the animal seems to have sat down on the snow, and again its 4 feet were again distinctly traced. Nothing more was desired. The mystery was traced. And then there's a little note at the bottom that it kind of is like an editor's note that says, Professor Owen thinks that the footprints at Dawlish were those of a badger.
Just Professor Owen's badger theory tacked on the end.
Much like that animal, I'm going to die on this hill.
So basically, Scottish guy finds polecat footprints, has read devil footprints in Devon case, and just starts digging up random tracks going, I found the devil's footprint. Yeah. Some have said the prints could be those of many of the same animal jumping and leaping or flying, but the stories of the devil in Devon live on. I personally like to think that the devil now and again takes an elevator up to Devon specifically sometimes. But I also like the idea that it could be some sort of cryptid.
Yeah, I mean, most famously, it's the Jersey Devil over in New Jersey in the USA, which is the most famous quote-unquote devil. But that in itself is not a devil as in Satan. We'll do a full episode on it sometime, but it's...
I would love one, actually, because I don't know much about it. So, Chris, if in the future you want to present the Jersey Devil file, that would be amazing.
I certainly will. I will tell you all about Martin Brodeur and why he is the best goalkeeper of all time.
You're so stupid.
And if they would just fire Lindy Ruff, then we could maybe make the fucking playoffs. But anyway, never mind. Yes, sometime in the future, I will do one on the literal Jersey Devil. But again, the devil is kind of used as a term as in monster. Here, they're not literally saying that Satan is around. It's something that resembles that classic look of the lower half of the body being goat-like, which has featured throughout history from, various sort of centaurs that you've had going on. The devil, most famously, and also, I'm trying to remember his name, Mr. Tumble? Not Mr. Tumble, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, that was it, from The Lion, the Witch of a Wardrobe. Not Mr. Tumble, he's a wrong un.
And Pan.
Pan from
course, yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Well, Pan. But yeah, Chris, that was the case of the devil's footprints. And I need you to debunk or, what are you thinking? I don't know where to put this file. We have so many files in our headquarters. We've debunked some, we've proven some. Where does this go? Where does it go, Chris? Did the devil visit England in 1855 and have a trot around on a winter's night, being a pervert or whatever he does? Or what do you think? Where are we putting this? Where are we filing this?
It's difficult to put it in the no file, if you will, in the no pile, the debunked pile, because there's just a sheer lack of evidence. And one of the funny things is the more evidence you have of something, actually, the easier it is to discredit in quite a lot of things. When you have something that has just tantalizingly no evidence, you've got a story and you've got some sketches. Well, it could be anything, couldn't it? You can fill in the blanks. I mean, I think this goes along to support a lot of other sightings, things like the Jersey Devil being the most famous thing, those types of cloven-footed spottings all over the world. So I think this has to go in a larger pile of mysterious footprints. I can't say that this is debunked because we just don't know enough about it. I think it is probably likely, though, that this is something else creating the footprints and it's creating a lot of panic. I think
Yes.
I would say if I was going to put money on anything, I do quite like that toad theory.
Didn't think you'd go for
I don't know.
toad.
It's like, oh yeah, maybe it wasn't a footprint, maybe it was an ass print, but so that's something where you're like, oh yeah, something else could have made that track, couldn't it? So I think that's probably the most interesting theory because we had someone who's gone out, been there, and reportedly found a toad, and a big toad at that. A real big boy.
You know what? Speaking of big toads, right? I was once at a temple in Thailand and I sat down on this kind of a jetty kind of thing, I suppose. and there was like a gap underneath it. So I kind of like leaned over, like with my head upside down, and looked in, and there was the biggest toad I have ever seen in my entire life. I swear, it was bigger than my laptop.
Jesus.
It was a big, mythical looking toad. I've never seen one that big.
Either that, you've got a very small laptop.
Seriously though, I was like, I actually gasped. It was such a big toad.
Oh. Well,
but I do like the idea of the
Devon toad. Not quite the same as the Devonshire devil. But, I suppose you'd have to ask yourself, if it is a cryptid, perhaps it is something along the parkour donkey.
Parkour donkey.
Perhaps
New cryptid species.
If we're going to go along with it, just say, well, this is real for a second. Yes, it is real. It was some kind of cryptid that made these tracks. Then maybe it's something along the lines of, when we investigated Bigfoot. And one thing that came out of that was that quite a lot of people believe that Bigfoots are actually interdimensional creatures. They move between planes of existence. Uh-huh. So, is it outside? If we take that as evidence, and I use that with, fully appreciating what I'm saying here. But if we take that and say, you know what, I'm going to stick a flag in the ground on this theory and say, yep, interdimensional creatures, then why couldn't this be the same thing? Why couldn't this be some other form of Smallfoot that, does the same thing?
Your Spanish cousin.
My, what tiny feet you have, Pedro.
Oh, Chris, you know what? Maybe back in the 1800s when greys came down, they were like, oh, we've got to blend in while we do a little...
probing.
Some surveillance of this small town. And maybe they thought, we'll just... we'll use the footprints of this common animal. So they were like a horse. And then they didn't realize that like horses didn't walk up drain pipes and go down chimneys to abduct people and
possibly.
Put chips in
that is another theory.
Just a modern theory.
Could be drastically misinterpreting the situation. You're right. In the same way that people were accusing gypsies of doing this for no apparent reason. Maybe the greys were going, yeah, goats. They walk on two legs and they climb up drain pipes, don't they? Yeah,
it's got to be aliens. Always aliens. Everything could be aliens. But right, Chris, that's the story of the Devil's Footprints in Devon.
Well, I'm interested on hearing what our listeners think, especially our Patreons. But we love you all. You don't have to have a subscription. So if you want to engage with us on this on Patreon, feel free. But at the same time, if you're just along for the ride, we love you too. Why don't you leave a comment on the Instagram page? Take a look at the images for yourself. What do you think? You can send us a direct message as well. But we want to hear from you. What do you think this case could possibly be? Let us know.
Yeah.
And we will we'll happily post the best answers that we can find on the Instagram stories as well. But Linz, thank you very much for taking us through this bizarre tale of cloven hoofed footprints in the snow leading from one southern place in England to a slightly less southern place in England.
You are welcome, and I am very happy to be back.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's great to be recording again, and let's dig into this ever-increasing pile of files that are building up and are actually preventing us leaving our basement office.
We can't leave the basement, Chris. It's the post-apocalyptic world outside. Why do you always forget? Look out there. What do you see?
I see Tory Britain. Post-apocalyptic wilderness.
Exactly. We're not going anywhere.
Well, thanks everybody. We will see you next time. And remember, if you see cloven hoofs, you know who to call.
Ghostbusters?
The hoof stilt people.
Ah, yes. Thanks, everyone.
Anyway, bye!
Bye!